Envision a world where a blockchain ledger processes all US dollar cross-border payments, whether they're going from Chicago to Shanghai or Nairobi to New York. True blockchain technology, specifically the XRP ledger. Think about it for a second. This isn't some Reddit fantasy or dream. Rather, it is the basis of a scheme known as Project Sand Dollar that was concealed in a Federal Reserve document. Possibly the most shocking and divisive revelation in the history of cryptocurrency is about to be unveiled. Much conjecture has been generated by a paper that was released from the Federal Reserve's internal cross-border payments task force. The document lays forth a daring plan to update the American banking system with the goal of making all dollar transactions immediate, global, and permanent. It wasn't merely the language, though, that grabbed everyone's attention. Its technical similarities to the XRP ledger were striking. One issue needs to be clarified right now, yet this story has not been confirmed. The unidentified sources who provided the memo have not been formally acknowledged. However, the substance is hard to disregard. The purported nature of Project Sand Dollar must be clarified first. The leak claims that the Federal Reserve has begun a secret program to improve the system that allows for the transfer of US dollars across international borders. What was the driving force? Worldwide inefficiency in settlement, over-reliance on quick and intensifying competition from quicker systems in Asia and Europe. The United States, in a nutshell, must maintain its lead in the digital financial arms race. According to the dossier, Project Sand Dollar is the US's move to counter that danger. Things become considerably more interesting from this point on. Impressively, the memo's proposed architecture is identical to the XRP ledger in every way: consensus processes, settlement speed, mechanics of token production, and compatibility. Not only is it comparable, it's almost indistinguishable. In less than 5 seconds, we will be discussing finality, very high throughput across a variety of banks, something that can be traded between different currencies without the need for centralized institutions or bilateral agreements. Every one of these aspects of XRP is special. But is XRP really Project Sand Dollar's foundation? Yes, according to people who say they were on the task force. Moreover, it is claimed that the Federal Reserve has allegedly purchased a strategic reserve of XRP at a price of $10,000 per coin through secret channels rather than the open market. 10 grand per XRP? Give it some thought. Despite the belief that XRP is selling around $1, the purported cost of these strategic reserves suggests a valuation grounded on practicality rather than fantasy. This isn't some wild gamble. The goal here is to use XRP as a bridge asset to monetize the speed of US dollar transactions worldwide. If this is the case, it would be a first for a major central bank to adopt a cryptocurrency not only as an experiment, but as an integral element of its infrastructure. In terms of global finance, what does that imply? Absolutely everything. According to this hypothesis, XRP's value will be independent of events like news cycles and SEC cases. Instead, its value would be determined by how essential it is for transactions. International money flows cause XRP's value to rise due to its scarcity and throughput rather than hype. Curious but doubtful? Ideally, you would be. Examining the stolen material critically is what we should do. The system's technical requirements are detailed in the memo. The asset's finality requirement must be less than 5 seconds, as stated on line 14. XRP blockchain 1 to 3 seconds. Interledger compatibility and the capacity to settle multiple assets are mentioned at line 22. Engineers at Ripple created the Interledger protocol with that purpose in mind. To facilitate access to liquidity without disturbing the public market, line 37 discusses the idea of holding strategic reserves in a non-public escrow. Is the Ripple escrow vault that thing? Now think about this. The Federal Reserve would require liquidity in order to implement a blockchain-based system. Quite a sum. It would necessitate a global scalability bridge asset, a trustless method for transaction verification, and a means to settle in different currencies. This was the original intent of XRP's design. Believers in XRP's undervaluation, neglect, and, to be honest, overregulation have held this view for years. Now, all of those assumptions would be validated if this document is genuine. This would clarify the strong regulatory thrust. The unwillingness of US authorities to publicly bring up Ripple might be explained by this. Indeed, that would clarify the purposeful lack of noise. The issue with the name of Project Sand Dollar is an obvious one, although some have pointed out that the CBDC, digital currency, Eye of the Bahamas uses the term sand dollar. It doesn't necessarily mean that the US government isn't considering utilizing the name for an internal initiative. It might be pure chance or, intentional deceit. Ultimately, wouldn't you want to conceal a big infrastructure development under a name that everyone knows and trusts? If this theory holds water, then we can move on to the next step. Now we're entering a future where XRP can only serve as the foundation for US to global commerce and not as a speculation tool. Governments, central banks, and multinational enterprises now hold, move, and use it rather than buying and selling it. Volume of transactions, liquidity requirements, and settlement demand determine its algorithmic pricing adjustment. Speculation regarding XRP's worth would be put to rest at that point. Retail investors' opinions would be moot. Whatever the experts say, it would be irrelevant. Similar to how energy is priced based on usage and availability, its price would be determined by the infrastructure it supports. But we must inquire, why exactly is $10,000 being used? Theoretically, the price wasn't just thrown out. Rather, it was determined by taking into account the overall volume of US dollar cross-border transactions, the quantity of XRP tokens that were accessible, and the worldwide liquidity requirements. The basic premise is that in order to process a yearly transaction volume of trillions of dollars, the price of XRP would have to be in the five-figure region, given its present circulating quantity. If the world's economies require $10 trillion in cross-border liquidity each year, but only 1 million XRP are accessible, then each XRP must have substantial transactional value. Functionality, not greed, is the driving force for a higher price. It would be remiss of us to overlook Ripple's considerable endeavors in gathering international alliances, starting with Santander and ending with the Bank of England via SBI and the Bank of America. There is some logic to Ripple's network of the U.S. must protect the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency in the face of its de-dollarization. Gains are being made by China's digital yuan. The BRICS countries are in talks over a settlement token that is backed by gold. The United States should embrace a financial weapon based on blockchain technology in this high-stakes climate. Of course, XRP is the best tool out there, completely decentralized, neutral, and prepared to go. The Middle East, Asia, and Africa pathways have already been tested by Ripple. The rails are in place. The only thing left is activation. The obvious thing to do is to talk about. This memo has not been confirmed by anyone. So yet, no one from the Federal Reserve has commented on XRP. This theory continues to be held by many for that very reason. The Fed would be well served to maintain silence until the XRP infrastructure is operational if the adoption of the cryptocurrency is indeed happening behind the scenes. Investors might start to speculate, prices would drop, and perhaps front-run if the information was made public. For stability, make sure the rollout is quiet. The ability to be silent strategically may actually be an asset. Then how can we put this data to use? If this is the biggest crypto rumor ever or the best opportunity ever discreetly given to retail investors, we will be ready for it with our probing inquiries, demands for openness, critical thinking, and honesty. This notion is ultimately about more than simply pricing. It's about XRP as a tool to change the face of global banking. Ripple and XRP's history indicates they were never meant to be modest, regardless of the veracity of the $10,000 price or the document. Is it possible that XRP will become an integral part of the U.S. Federal Reserve's digital dollar system? Is this the final act about which we've talked? The verdict will be announced at a later date. Assuming, however, that this theory is even partially correct, we are seeing a change that will be the subject of economics textbooks for years to come. Here it is, handed to you. Are you in agreement? Are you sure this memo is authentic? Is the U.S. financial system planning to use XRP as a bridge asset? Or is this simply the latest crypto theory? Please share your opinions in the space provided. Please forward this video to other XRP holders. Be sure to subscribe as well. As the story progresses, we will be monitoring it. Remain vigilant, knowledgeable, and optimistic until our paths cross again. Important notice. I want you to know that I am not a certified financial planner. This video clip is uploaded only for amusement purposes. Before making any major financial decisions, I always tell my viewers to do their own study and talk to experts. Many thanks for joining us. A thumbs up and a subscribe would mean a lot if you thought the video was entertaining.